All right, so we're going to start and we're going to talk about responsive web design using AngularJS. Now, this is a very small part of responsive web design that I'm going to go over, and this is more about trying to address some of the issues that you have when you're building a responsive site. I'm not going to go into CSS media queries and a lot of that detail. This is more about what can you do from an AngularJS perspective, that if you're trying to build a one-size-fits-all site that's going to change its appearance, and that what can you do to make it fast, snappy, and eliminate a lot of the issues that you have by trying to do that. So if you were looking for me to teach you about responsive web design, this is about all I'm going to tell you. It's an approach aimed at crafting sites that basically give you the best viewing experience no matter what device you're on. So if you go to the site, whether you go to it on a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile, you're going to get the best experience for what you're using to view the site with. And it handles resizing, panning, whether you change your orientation. It's actually going to change your display sometimes. And this is right off of Wikipedia. So that's about as far as I'm going to go with that. So how is it usually done? There's two different ways people have tried to tackle this problem. And the first one is what a lot of people will do is, based on what the user agent is coming in, they're going to redirect you to a different subdirectory. They're either going to send you to like a desktop tree, or they're going to send you off to a mobile tree. And this is what Microsoft's MVC, they've actually built that into it so that you can actually say, I want to build a responsive ready MVC app, and it'll generate both a desktop view and a mobile view for you whenever you create a view. The other way is, and the CSS media queries is the second way, and so what they're doing is, based on the screen size, they're going to, like less than 768, they're going to basically change the definitions of the CSS to hide and show different things. They may, and they also change the width of what your columns are. And actually, Bootstrap is probably one of the best examples of how things work in that regard. So let me give you a real quick example on how that works. So I'm going to jump out of here real quick, and I'm going to go over here to Radastogi. So this is a little site that I had worked up a while back, but it's actually built with Bootstrap. And if you watch what happens as I start to move, you're going to start seeing things collapse and things drop down here when I get to a certain size. You'll notice that right about this point here, it goes from three rows across to one row up and down. And so everything is basically here. And if you notice, the menu disappeared. So if I pull it back out, you'll see that the menu will come back up, the navigation pane. So now you've got a drop-down menu type of thing here. So this is actually done all based on the width of the screen that's coming across as a viewport. Now the problem with this is that if you're on a mobile device that has, let's say, a size smaller than 768 pixels, you're still pulling down all the images and all the content for the desktop site, even though it's hidden in the background. So what happens when that mobile device tries to, I guess I should have, I'm right here. So what happens is that that mobile device bogs down trying to manipulate all that hidden CSS or hidden web stuff. Plus, it looks like it's really slow because it's pulling down all these big images over your 3G, 4G network. So that's not really a good solution. And then with redirection, it's more of a maintenance nightmare from a developer perspective, because every time you make a change on the desktop view, you got to make a change on the mobile view, and you got to keep things in sync. And if you don't, then all of a sudden you'll get these weird bug reports. It works fine on the desktop, but when they do it on the mobile site, they're missing an address line, or they're missing a notes field because the developer forgot to update the mobile view or a tablet view. That's one of the things that I didn't like about iPhone development, is their solution for doing the different size screens was to build another resource file for each screen in the early days when they actually brought out the iPad and they had the very first generation of universal apps. You had multiple different screen sizes. So if you changed something on one that was for the iPhone, you had to make sure you went and did it for the iPad. Otherwise, that same data wouldn't show up and your application would bail on you. So we can actually use Angular to help us solve these two problems. One is if we take and go down the CSS media query, then we can use AngularJS to actually hide that data so it never gets pulled down on your smaller devices. Or we can actually use a service for the redirection, and we can actually circumvent and redirect them automatically from the client. So the client can then figure it out instead of your server-side code having to figure it out. We can also use ngIf and ngSwitch to display their appropriate content. But the problem with like ngSwitch or an ngIf is then you get all this complicated code in your HTML. If mobile, do this, or ngSwitch mobile and stuff like that. So that isn't truly a really good way. So what we can do is we can build custom directives to handle whether we hide something because it's on a mobile device or a tablet, or show something because it's on desktop, and kind of take the same tack that ngSwitch or ngIf and ngSwitch does, so that we don't ever render that content. So it'll go through. It comes down initially, and if you use ngSource so that it doesn't actually, the browser doesn't see a source for an image tag or something like that, you can actually just basically, it comes down with your HTML. You remove all the HTML that's not supposed to be displayed, and then only render what you need and only go to the server to get what you need for your display. So I'm going to kind of go through two different versions. The first one is the redirect by using a service, and we're going to basically feed that in into our route configuration. So we're going to basically, at the time we're actually set up our routing, we're going to basically determine, are we a mobile device or a tablet? And then we'll redirect everything appropriately. So let me switch over here to WebStorm. And so this is a start of a library that I have up on GitHub, and the link will be at the end of this, but it's basically called Angular Responsive, and it's a service and 4 directives. And the service basically is all the helper functions, like, am I on a smart device? So in this case here, I look to see if it's a smart device. Is it an Android, an iPhone, a BlackBerry, a Windows Phone? And then that in combination with the screen size, I'm going to come back, this is a mobile device, this is a tablet, or this is a desktop. Now one of the other things I could do is I could also feed in, right now the sizes are hard-coded, but I could provide a